Dear attendees and the followers of the World Muslim Communities Council, we are pleased today to present Professor Al-Khidr Abdul Baqi Muhammad, the manager of the Nigerian Center for Arabic Researches and a member of the board for the Muslim Communities Council. And today he will speak to us about Muslims in Nigeria and challenges after yours. In name of Allah, greetings to you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I would like first to thank my dear colleagues in the World Muslim Communities Council for this series of webinars that introduce Muslims to each other and also talking about the challenges that facing them all over the world. And today we will speak about Nigeria. We will talk about Muslims in Nigeria and the different challenges after modernization. We will talk about this topic through different aspects. The first one is an introduction, and the second one is a small summary about Nigeria that we are talking about. The third one, the religious reality here. The fourth one, we will talk about the challenges of modernization for Muslims here. These are the main aspects we will talk about today. The first one, the importance of talking about Nigerian Muslims is coming out from different aspects. As you know, Muslim in Africa in general struggles a little bit, as you know, because they are different and simple people. Muslims in Africa, they are suffering a little bit and they are poor. So these are the instructions they simplify, and we call it the stereotypes about Muslims in Nigeria. And that need from time to time to know what are the necessities and the reality of the picture here for Islam here. The second one is how to speak about it. The African countries, there are different developments. In the 80s, even in the new millennium, these developments, it's not great. So for that, the third cornerstone here, when we speak about it, Islam and Africa, some entities and some institutions, they are working deliberately to target Muslims and create gaps between them, especially to create a far picture from reality. And here we need to speak about it. Some of them, they are exaggeration. These are the things I mentioned, is the importance that we talk about Islam in Africa. This is the introduction that I started with. Now, the first aspect, we will talk about Nigeria. Nigeria is a huge country in Africa, and it constitutes a giant country, the biggest country from population aspect. They call it the African China, it's exceed 220 million. For that, it's considered one of the biggest countries in Africa. When we talk about the size, it's less than 1 million square meters for the borders Nigeria, the southwest of Africa. It's there's the Atlantic Ocean, Niger, and from the north, Chad, and from the east, Al Cameroon. These countries they have borders with Nigeria. If we talk about the trade, there's 36 provinces in addition to Abuja, the political capital, and also it include many governmental institutions. It's a presidential system every 3 or 4 years. There's election, and now President Muhammad Buhari, and we will have the elections in 2023. The economy is based on oil. Even Nigeria has got different natural resources, and for that there's a lot of industrial fields. But the country itself and based a lot around 80% on oil. Of course, there are other sources like diamond, gold, more gold, also agriculture, in addition to animal breeding. So there's diversity of climate here. Also, people. Around 250 ethnicities and tribes. So it's like a human museum on the general atmosphere. Nigeria also is an important country in the region. Talking about from politics, it creates the policy in Africa. Especially, it lead Africa between the South Nigeria in the south of the desert. If we talk about Africa as a whole, we have Egypt, Nigeria, and South Africa. So there's a great importance in the history for Egypt, and we know the role of Egypt. We can't negotiate it, but we know that all they are competing in the field of politics. Nigeria itself, it represents the depth and defendants for Africans here. So it has the quick intervention troops. So most of them, these quick intervention, they are from Nigeria. Also creating stability and peace in Ivory Country, Sierra Leone, and other countries. The Nigerian decision is great because has got power, and it's based on Nigeria because it's here supported in a great way. When we talk about ECOWAS, economy trade, now they are working on a currency between them. This is a small summary and introduction about Nigeria and its economical position in the region. I will talk about the number of Muslims later, as we are talking about the reality of Muslims and the challenges they are facing in the country. Nigeria, we will talk about the religious reality. The religious reality here is very complicated. Nigeria in general, the main religions is they are Islam and Christianity, but also it has low numbers of uh, non-believers. So they have Al-Wathaniya also, and we have a great number of people joined Islam from other religions. They turn to Muslims more than Christianity. Some to Christianities, but also we have great number here. Most of non-believers, it used to be before Islam and before Christianity. So 90% of them, they turned to Muslims. They converted to be Muslims. Maybe 3 or 4, they turned to be Christianity. Also, the work here to convert and invite the other believers to non-believers to Islam is bigger than the others because of cultural reasons. So the main religions here there is Christianity and Islam. For non-believers, we have some Wathani believers because of its complications still remain, but in small number. Now we talk about the number of Muslims and number of Christians. There's a problem in statistics. Nigeria from constitution is a globalized country. So it's based on globalization. But reality, it's a religious country. So the constitution say it's a globalized country, but reality, if we can see, it is a religious country. It considers religions in different aspects, and religion is very important element in its decisions. So on paper, globalized country, but in reality, focus on religions, even in election, distributing the ministries. So we can't talk about globalized country, but we will it's a religious country or multi-religion country. But basically, it's based on Islam and Christianity. For that, the policy of the country, it's based on the balance. So the country make balance between Christianity and Islam. This is the policy for Nigeria. As they are doing for Muslims, they do it the same for non-Muslims or Christians. If it's 2 days for Islam, it will be also 2 days for Christians. So balance is very important here. Here, when I talk about statistics of Muslims in Nigeria, why there is a problem, we'll talk about the sensitivity of this topic. In Nigeria, in reality, the number the number of Muslims is higher. From the 200 millions, the number of Muslims, according to realistic percentages, around from 60, more than a little bit, between 60 to 65%, they are Muslims. This is an estimation, but other institutions, another estimation, people say 50%, and for Christians, I am Muslim and I am academic. So Muslims around 65%. But Christians, they are 45 or more than 45. And let's be realistic, and I will speak about challenges. But we see the Islamic extension, and these are going in parallel. Yes, there is Islamic extension and growth, and also Christian growth. Why? Because the country is open. There is a freedom. You can invite anyone to your religion. So this is about the statistics of Muslims here. There are statistics, and it's not approved because of the sources. So the country here, they don't want to intervene in this topic. The country or the government try to avoid insensitivity in this regard. Within this aspect, when we talk about the formation of the country here, it's called Nigeria, and that was in 1914. Before that, Nigeria was formed of ethnics, different regions, each one in his region. If we take north of Nigeria, we talk about the countries close to it, like Cameroon. They call it the countries of Hausa, as they are speaking the same language. But most of them, they are Muslims, especially from the north. There is also Christian minorities, but still, this region alone, before Nigeria unified, and especially we talk about the Atlantic Ocean, there is sultans and emperors, and there's different cultures. The north, they have their own region. All of this, when the British Mandate in the 16th century, and they have done the exploration, they settled in this area. So they close to Lagos, and after that, they manage it separately. In 1414, sorry, I can't hear the sound.
حضرتك معانا يا دكتور؟
Doctor, can you hear us? There is technical problem from the source.
دكتور الخضر
Technical problem from the source.
من حيث انتهينا في عام
Let's
1414
continue from 1414. You were talking
التقسيمات اللي حدثت في نيجيريا.
about what happened in Nigeria. Please give me a minute. Still waiting for our guest to speak again.
يبدو أن هناك عطلا فنيا لدى ضيفنا الكريم.
It seems that there is a technical problem with Dr. Al-Khidr Muhammad, the manager of the Nigerian Center for Arabic Studies. Now I will get back to you. We are waiting for you, doctor. Take your time. So waiting for the sound to get back from the source.
نود فقط أن ننوه أن موضوع
We would like to tell you that the topic for today is about Muslims in Nigeria and the challenges after modernization. And our guest today is Professor Al-Khidr, the manager of the Nigerian Center for Arabic Researches, and he will be with us soon. Still waiting for sound to coming again from the source.
السلام عليكم.
عليكم السلام. تفضل.
السلام عليكم. Yes, doctor.
تفضل. نكمل من حيث انتهينا.
أين وقفنا؟
Where have we stopped?
المناطق الجغرافية في نيجيريا تتوزع.
We talked about the geographical areas between Al-Hausa.
قد وصلنا إلى منطقتي الشرق والغرب من يقطنهم وما.
And we talked about who's living there.
تركيبة المجتمع النيجيري. تفضل يا دكتور.
المناطق التي هي
So these areas in the south, they have cultures. So the people live together under one name. It's called Nigeria. Within the current context, we have different cultures. Why? Because of the cultures, traditions, and also got reflected on politics and how it dealt with these. So this is before the formation of Nigeria. As we said, it was formed in 1914, and we call it the Federal Nigeria. So these three parts united, and they called now Nigeria. Now, after that, I moved to the Islam and the challenges that formed after the modern formation. So Islam got into Nigeria, and people say it came to Nigeria in the 10th century, and it started in the eastern north, and there was a lot of activities for Islam. So Al-Hausa is different. And the new movements like Tano, Sukuku, we call it north of Nigeria. So the renew movements after a great time, they took this part of Nigeria and it took control because these movements were based there. Even the density that Nigeria got because of the north, Al-Hausa, there was a lot of emperors with Islamic, like Sokoto. So many emperors were there, many decades. So the social formation of these communities was Islamic, and the used language was Arabic. So the north area in Nigeria, Islam strong there, not because members, but the state there. We call it Islamic country. There's Islamic ministries. There's also a prince. So this density in the north, because of the historical accumulation, So we need to explain the Islamic culture in the social here in the north. In the south, there is no Islamic empires, but they most of them they are non-believers. So when Islam was founded there, you can see it in the north and in the east. Also, we have the east. We have different ethnicities from non-believers, and also we have the Christians there. So the modern country here, when they have these geographies in the north and east, the north with Islamic density and the south with the Christian density. So the south, there is a lot of conflict. It conserves the balance between the north, where there's extremists, Islamic extremists, and Christian extremists. So this is the balance. The modern formation of Nigeria. Now, the impact of Islam are how Muslims dealt with the political new Nigeria. Definitely, there is different methodology of dealing for that. Of course, at sometimes we lived alone, and at other time we lived with the others with different ethnicities, and here different challenges. How to have national integration. So again, sound stopped.
هل أنت معنا دكتور الخضر محمد عبد
Dr. Al Khadr, can you hear us? Sorry, I can't hear the sound again. Because some content they can't live with the others because of many reasons. We call about cultures, we call about even the country. They are trying to integrate all the elements and to have peace, but still other parties they haven't accepted to live with other parties, and here we can see the religion as a landmark how to integrate the Nigerian component together. The Muslims in the north, the Muslims in the south, and there's minority in the east. So the religion here unify these people. At the same time, other people see this one doesn't unify the people together. Especially when we talk about the minority Christians in the north, they feel there's Muslim majorities, so they will not be comfortable. and the same for in the East with the Muslim minority and majority of Christianity. Here, the modern country or government, they put these challenges, and this is the last one I will speak about. The first one, educational. This educational system, this system take into consideration the tribes and in general and in the modern system and trying to educate people. Some people, we can't accept that. So this educational system is a main challenge for us, especially in the modern life here. Secondly, the Muslims regarding politics, they want to participate in decision making that reflect majority, democratic one, and the modern system wanted to do that. Here, there's a great challenge. Great challenge. Muslims, from time to time, they say that we are majority. Even the numbers, they are majority, but still the decision makers, they need to be part of it. And this is very important. Now the majority, we talk about the people who decision maker, but for Muslims, we are majority. Okay, but you need to work inside the parliament. You need to work in the election. The next challenge is democracy. Muslims, after this transformation, sometimes they benefit from democracy, and another time they complain from democracy. So they need to have a vision about it, and also to have reconciliation with the current situation. The country adopted all the schools, the religious schools, and also the national schools. So all these schools is part of the country or the government. Some of the Muslims or even Christians, sometimes they say, these are our schools, and so you need to have Christian or cultures, especially during Al-Jum'ah. Some Muslims, they say, they don't accept democracy because they are non-Muslims. Even for Christians, schools is affiliated to the country, and students are Christians and even Muslims, and this is a great challenge. Muslims still try to align between them and to deal with the modern country. And here there is another challenge, which is political participation and involvement, especially when we talk about election. It's based on religions, and this is minority from Muslims and Islam. Now we are in a democratic country, and here the law prevent to form a party based on a religion. The responding, how Muslims respond to that is weak. They think they are still in the old empires, especially when we talk about the belonging of the president or the parliament. And this is seen in the initial election. It's called here non-written policy or politics. In all governments, there's president and there is vice president, Christian or Muslim. This is not written, but it's known in politics. So some people talk about it. The president need to be a Muslim. So for what we have done, this is very known here in politics. For Muslim and some extremists, especially when they talk about ethnicities, they say must. The president need to be or must be Muslim. This is a great challenge. And other issues, we can find it here, a limitation. Also, the interaction between tribal and religious and what is related to the parties. Sometimes the civic because people talk about this is Islam and this is tribe. I would like to explain it. The countries or the areas where there is a Muslim majorities, when they want to get or they would like to represent Islam, it should be from the area, the north, for example. But this is not accepted from Muslims from other areas because there is now a mixture about what's tribal and especially when the country talk about there is a position and people need to consider the Muslims and Christians. There's a mixture between the north. They speak about what's for the tribe. And when they talk about the leadership, but other Muslims, they talk about it and they say we can't mix about it. The majority will take the whole cake. Sometimes about Islam and sometimes about the tribe. We need to consider all of that. We need to know the differences. I am not racist, but I'm talking about reality. The next one is the heritage. Heritage is a great problem. especially for Muslims in Nigeria. Some areas here, all the heritage, 98% is formed by Islam. So, when we talk about heritage, we talk about Islam. In other area, especially the south, when we talk about the heritage in the south, all of it, 95% of it is for non-believers. So when they talk about heritage here, it's different from talking about heritage there. There is no limitation between heritage and Islam because it's formed by Islam. And this is very strange. Al-Hausa is Islam. So the modern country here, the heritage is still a problem. Because most Muslims, they find a little, they feel shame. And for that, the Muslims in the south, they are a little bit conservative when they talk about it. As many content here, so people will not agree together. From the modern country, and this is related to politics. This is affiliated to some country, the relation between Saudi Arabia and some Arab country. The modern country, see it, it's depending on interest, like relation with Egypt, Saudi Arabia. Why? Because they don't want to fight with the Christians. So when they talk with the Nigerian relationship, is about the relation between Israel, Saudi Arabia, and other parties. What about the relation between the pilgrimage, Christianity also? So even they have a president, Muslim president, but still the interest and they formed relations with Israel. So Muslims, they say we don't want relation with Israel, and Christians say we want. In Bethlehem, they have relations and interests. Now we have the national country. Interests set priorities, especially when we talk about the diplomatic representation. But most of the time, Muslims, they don't want to understand that. They understand, but they need to accommodate it in a modern way. So we have different problems and demonstrations. Sometimes why we have this minister, sometimes why we have this relation with that. Another challenge that brought the international light on Nigeria is to implementing Islamic Sharia. And Muslims benefited from it, especially when we talk about the criminal aspect. It was implemented before in transactions and divorce and marriage, and there's no problem. But when we talk about the court in 2000, and when we start to have the civil government, Muslims benefited from it, and Muslims benefited from the civil government. Now, Islamic Sharia, Muslims here benefited from the modern country. But why Muslims benefited from it? The democratic climate, they can participate in the court. We implement what we want here, but in some areas and for some minorities, we need to support them. We need to deal with their concerns. We are democratic countries. Even many of the provinces, they took many of it. The political system, especially here, talking about the Muslims. Now, for leaders, they are using politics. But when I talk about the challenges now that is coming from Muslims, for the actors who are on the ground and who form the picture and stereotype, I'm not talking about the institutions that are related to the countries. Here, I am not talking about them. I'm talking about the individuals. When Islamic Sharia implemented, those people they exaggerated, and people were worried and concerned, especially non-Muslims. Even the systems there, they were wise to deal with it. And also, there's Christian ministries. But I am talking about implementing Islamic Sharia. But for Muslims, they can't integrate it in the implementation through the civic country. Even in the different ones, when there is text, and this is an extension to see the radical movement like Boko Haram. This is another type for the lack of modernization. What do they want? They don't want to live with the others. Even I'm talking here about they haven't got good implementation of Sharia. So they want to talk about how it's implemented, dealing with the others, dealing with them, and even opening the space. These are some hindrances that is brought by this radical movements. These movements, they are only ones carrying extremist or radical ideas, and they try to convince people by their ideas. These are the challenges that is facing Muslims after modernization. But still, we are living within these challenges, as I have mentioned in the challenges that Muslims till now they can't adapt with this after that to find a great country to accommodate all. I think this is a quick summary about all of that, and hopefully we'll have another chance to deal about the rest of them. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Al Khadr Muhammad, the manager of the Nigerian Center for Islamic Researches and a member of World Muslim Community Council Board. He spoke to us about it. Thank you very much, Professor, and for your presentation in details about the challenges that's facing the Muslim communities in Africa, as it is called here, the Brazilian of Africa. Thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you very much. شكرا. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Recording stopped.